Hi guys, next we have to understand what are the scope we are having, how to handle the errors, how to generate a log file on the servers. Okay, so there are four scope we are having, like one is the babe context, second is the session, and third I can say it is a request and page. So if we have a scope of babe context, I mean sublet context, then I can access or component or it is accessible from babe components within a babe context. So anyone can access whatever the components we are having in that application, right? Now if I say session, then accessible from babe components handling a request that belongs to the session. So whoever are belonging to that session, that guy can only access that stuff. Okay, if it is request, so accessible from babe components handling that request. So for that particular request only it is. If it is a page, let us say there is a JSP page, and for that page there is a number of component who is handling the request. Okay, all that component is eligible for handling that request if it is a page for that particular page, right? Second is, you can see this API which we have from different packages. Like if we say babe context, I mean sublet context, it is in the java x.sublet package. If we say http session, so it is from the java x sublet.http. If it is a request, it is http sublet request from the java x sublet.http package. If it is a page, it is a page context from this package, right? Java x.sublet.jsp. So these are the four API we are having for handling the scope. Now next is the scope of sublet context. So what is the scope of the sublet context? It is within application. Means if it is one application we have and it is having sublet context, so whatever the components are in this application, they are eligible to access the resources from the sublet context, right? Okay, so shared by all sublets and JSP pages within a Wave application. A Wave application is a collection of sublets and content installed under a specific subset of the service or URL namespace. Okay, accessing sublet context. Let us say you want to set some value with the sublet context and you want to retrieve value from the sublet context, and there are some context param kind of things in the web.xml. If we have some value with the context param, we can retrieve the value in our sublet. So let us say you are having some context parameter. Okay, so this is a context parameter that school name is a my school. So this is the name and this is the value. Once I look for this name, I'll get this value. So this value we can set with web.xml. So any application or any page which is looking for a school name, okay, they can get it from here. In future, if I need to change, I can change it here. The whole page will get reflected. So it is very much decoupled, right? So you can see this here, catalog sublet, extend HTTP sublet. It is having some book DB and then it is having a school name, right? Here, two things are there. There's the init methods. What we are doing, we are saying get sublet context, get attribute book DB. So I am getting that, right? And then we are saying here, if some exception, it will display some message, right? Couldn't get database. So we are putting in some kind of try catch you can put. Now next we are saying get sublet context dot get init parameter. So it will retrieve the context name, school name, and get the school name, my school, it will store here in this variable. So we are having some string value, right? So I'll get it. Clear? So remember, get init parameter I was using. If I have a sublet configuration, I can say sublet config dot get init parameter. So I'll get that information of the sublet. But here I'm saying get sublet context. This is the object of sublet context, right? So through context, I'm retrieving the context information. Okay. As we know, there's one sublet context in one application, and that sublet context We'll refer that. Second is the session. Now, if you want to get the session here, so we have a code like request dot get session. So session, if session is there, it will retrieve it. If it is not there, it will create it. And this session is pointing that, right? And now we are saying session dot get attribute masses. So whatever masses with the session, I can retrieve it. If I want to set something, we have a session dot set attribute. We can set some masses and some value for that. Okay. Now we are saying a request dispatcher get sublet context or get request dispatcher. Sublet context also help us to get the request dispatcher, which will help you to forward the request to the other sublet. This guy will help you to do inter-sublet communication. Let us say one sublet is taking request from the client, and this sublet will transfer this request to the other sublet. How? It has to use request dispatcher. First sublet has to use request dispatcher. It can set some value with the request object. It can set some value with the session, and then finally this request can transfer to the other sublet, and that sublet will take care. Let us say another sublet I have a banner, so it will go to the another sublet. So just we have to say include. Just we have to say here forward. If I am saying forward, it will go to that sublet. If I am saying include, then the output of this sublet will included here at this place. Okay. If you want to write some masses to the server log file, we are having a get sublet context dot log. So this is the context object dot log. So there's a log method we are having, and we can write some masses here that will get logged to the server log file. So that is very good features we are having here. Now next is the sublet config. As I said, sublet config is used to represent servlet configuration, and we set, let us say there is some init parameter for the sublet, and we can retrieve that init parameter of the sublet from the web.xml to my sublet, right? If no initialization parameters are provided, then the default sublet config object is built by the container and passed to the sublet. Every sublet has its own sublet config object, and it's not shared by different sublets, right? But sublet context can have something and can be shared by other sublets, right? So you can see this, we are writing here get sublet config dot get init parameter. Previously we were writing get sublet context dot get init parameter, right? So here it is retrieving the sublet configuration. There it was retrieving the sublet context. Okay. Sublet context is not with sublet, it is not particular with the sublet, it is with the application. Okay. So these are the init parameters, and if sublet configuration is there, so let us say this is my sublet, and this sublet is having a configuration 1, 2 configuration. So I can look for a school name, I'll get this value. I can look for this name, I will get this value, right? Okay. Now what is the exact difference between this sublet config and sublet context? You will get it clarity here. So sublet context shared across all sublet. Sublet config not shared. Each sublet has different object. Each sublet has own sublet config. Remember, every sublet is coming into the hierarchy from the sublet implementation, right? If I create my sublet, I am extending HTTP sublet. HTTP sublet extending generic sublet. Generic sublet extending what? Sublet. Sublet config. Serializable. Every sublet is having this object, right? You can store values into it. You cannot store values into programmatically, right? You can read values from it. You can read values from this also via web.xml. It does not store a reference of sublet config. It stores reference of sublet context object, right? Use get sublet context to get its reference. Use get sublet config to get it reference. So if you want to get the object of sublet config, I'll just say get sublet config. If I want to get object of sublet context, I'll just say get sublet context. I can write one code here. Let us say you are having here sublet context. I want this object. Say ctx equal to what you will write. How you can get this object? Just write here get sublet context enough. Now you are ready with this object context. Now you can use context dot set attribute get attribute. You can do that one also, right? Or get init parameters. You can do that. Okay. Next is the what is HTTP sublet request here. Request URL header examples here. So we'll come to here now. What is HTTP sublet request? HTTP sublet request is an interface, but we normally refer HTTP sublet request to the object because who implements this interface, right? It is a Java object that contains data passed from HTTP client to HTTP sublet. It's created by sublet container and passed to sublet as a parameter of do get and do post. So once request come, this sublet container will create two objects, sublet request and sublet response. Will pass to do get and do post method, and that we handle that request. I mean, we get data from the request and we process this, right? So HTTP sublet request is an extension of sublet request and provides additional methods for accessing. HTTP request URL, context, sublet, path, all this will help you to get it, right? Query information, cookies, authentication type and user security information. And there are some other miscellaneous information you can retrieve some session also, right? Request URL. So request URL is always containing like the HTTP protocol first, right? And then domain name like gmail.com, something, some port number on the server, and then request path, right? And query string. So let us say you're writing here http colon localhost dot colon 8080 hello one is a folder, greeting is like path we can say, right? Greeting.jsp is in this folder existing on this server, right? So I can say this is the application also here, hello one application. Similarly, let us say this daydreamer catalog, we can say this is the URL, right? Uniform resource locator. So what is request path? Request path is made of context, sublet name and path information, the rest of it, right? What is query string? Query strings are composed of set of parameters and values that are user entered. Let us say we are using username X, password equal to Y. So username equal to X and password equal to Y will get appended. This is the query, right? Add equal to 101 to something, right? Like that. Okay. So what we are saying, add equal to 101. Now if this query string will go to the server, now on the server what I will look, request dot get parameter what, add. Once I say add, I'll get 101 here. So book ID will hold 101. Now I can do some process. I can retrieve all the information of that book ID from the database, right? Because user is looking for the book store catalog which is having ID 101. Okay. So you can see clearly here. If I enter say some username Monica Clinton, okay. So username equal to Monica Clinton here, right? Now I can look in my sublet. I'll look for username. this username, I'll get the value here. Username Monica Clinton will come here. I can retrieve some information from the database for this username. I can do something more, right? Okay. Now what is headers? So headers, I can say HTTP requests include headers which provide extra information about the request. So let us say you might be willing to know who is requesting, from where it is requesting, what is the IP address of that machine, who is requesting to me, right? On the sublet or server. So there are some request header we are having, like accept, okay, connection, cookie, user ID, host, referrer, user agent, what kind of browser they are using, what is operating system, what is the language has been set, English, right? These all we can get. So that header is having this information. So accept indicates MIME type, what kind of data, image, text, HTML, what is that? Accept encoding, what kind of encoding it is there? GZIP or compress. So it is like using binzip kind of things, right? Authorization, user identification for password protected package, right? So all these things are connections in HTTP 1.1. Persistent connection is default. So sublet should set content length with set content length method. We can modify this header information. Cookie we can retrieve from the request. Cookie sent to that, right? Host indicates host given in original URL, right? This is required in HTTP1. If modified, since some data now will come here. Refer URL of referring web page. Who is referring to this page, right? Or user agent. So what kind of browser they are using. All this header information we can easily get. There are one method like we are having get headers. All these methods are there which help us to get all this information. So you can see this clearly here in this program. What we have, we are saying here response.get title, that's okay, title, and then you can see this block here that we are saying request.get method, right? So what kind of method they are having? Get or post, get request URI, get protocol, right? And then we are saying enumeration, and we are saying get header name. It will retrieve all the name, and that name having some corresponding value. So header names has more elements, so then we are saying next element, and then we are saying header name, because here we are writing here, and then we are saying get headers. So first let us say I am getting header language. So if language is multiple language, if it is there, then it will retrieve all the language here, right? So this is another get headers. So we are having some method like get header. First we are saying here get header names. What it will do? It will retrieve all the name of that headers, like a language, agent, whatever the previously in the we understood, we discussed, and that headers having some information like okay, if you just come to here, I'll just tell you what is that. So you can see here, these are the headers. So we are having accept, right? These are the accept encoding. Let us say accept encoding is this is the header, accept encoding, connection, cookie, host, referrer. These are the headers we are having, header name. And this header name is having value. This accept is having 1, 2, 3 value, right? Except encoding also could be gz comma some compress, something like that. User agent could be some, or some different multiple user agent here. So all this we can retrieve here. So get headers name will retrieve all. Now then we're saying get header for cookie user ID, get header for host, this is get header for referrer, like that, right? So if I go to here, we are saying get header names. So all header name coming, and then we are saying while header names dot has more elements, yes, then next, and then say here get header of that header name. So I'll get it and print it. Now next is the general purpose method like get context path, which will get the context path. Okay, get query string, what is a query string, get path information, returns any extra path information associated with the URL the client sent when it makes this request, right? Get session will help you to retrieve the session, whatever the session associated with the request. If the request does not have a session, create one, right? Get cookies will help you to get all the cookies, right? So you just say here like get cookies, it will return the cookies array, so you can get all the cookies. Okay, get headers, just now I explained to you. Get headers will get all the headers, get header names will get all the names, right? Okay, so these are the methods which we can use for HTTP servlet request.